This is some nice steel. How about telling me who gave them to you?
Yo mama.
I would like to graciously start this video filled to the brim with positivity by saying fuck you. Now some of you are probably scratching your nuts in confusion, wondering why I'm screaming foul language at the logos of billion-dollar companies that couldn't give less of a fuck why I'm upset in the first place. And your perplexity would be justified. However, over on my second channel, I made the greatest AMV that has ever been made. In fact, every creator that had ever even dared to upload one before me either took down or privated their creations out of shame. But then I guess these companies saw that I was simply too powerful, and just had to block the video even though every other creator that had uploaded a similar video still had theirs up even years later. But I guess they realized my AMV was just too fucking awesome, and normal everyday viewers wouldn't be able to handle such immense gas. In all seriousness, okay, a little seriousness, I'm still shocked my Avatar video is still up. Whatever, I'll just make some quick edits to get it past the censors. I'm killing myself. Alright, truth be told, I've had the AMV back up for a bit, and to be fair, Viacom could strike again, but I'm keeping this rant in the video because I'm petty like that. My crippling hatred for YouTube's copyright system aside, I'm very glad to be back talking about TMNT. My review of the 2007 movie has since become my most viewed video on the channel, which is very baller, and thanks so much to everyone who's watched it. I honestly thought I was gonna have to wait until next year for Seth Rogen's movie, but then Netflix of all companies decided to come in clutch with Rise of the TMNT the movie. Now listen, I'm gonna be completely upfront. I did mention this in the other video, but I haven't watched Rise of the TMNT in its entirety until now. Got a reboot almost every decade since then, and I've pretty much watched all of them. As for Rise, I haven't seen much of this version. God, I'm such a good writer. In that video, I kept my overview of the series brief, but this time around, I get to go really in-depth about what I think of the show as well as the movie. Short answer, I love it. Long answer, I really love it. And while I can't appreciate that they tried a lot of new things, it's not really my cup of tea. It's too goofy for my liking, and some of the changes did not do it for me. Well, now I just feel like an ass. Rise of the TMNT is easily the most different compared to the other series, and I think that combined with how fast it came out after the 2012 show was the reason why a lot of people wrote it off, including myself. Biggest mistake of my life, to be sure.
I don't like this, man. I just don't like this at all. This is really shitty. This is like some stinky garbage that you're putting out here. I really don't like it. I don't respect it at all.
My initial impression was it was going to be a lot more like Teen Titans Go, where it focused solely on the humor and not a compelling story like the previous shows did. And I wasn't exactly completely wrong. This is easily the goofiest version of the TMNT so far, with each turtle being just as equally autistic as the last, and the show being extremely fast-paced with jokes sprinkled in at every opportunity. The difference here between this show and something like Teen Titans Go, as well as the recent Thor Love and Thunder, is that there's actually a good balance of in-your-face humor with more serious and emotional dilemmas. Plus, I was laughing so much more often than I was expecting.
I don't need weapons to beat you! I got my rare skill! Yippee! I'm free!
But you really must learn to use the Dimbley door.
You must learn to use real words.
You gotta believe in yourself and know this. If I die in this maze, I will haunt you for the rest of your...
Dr. Feelings? I thought you were Dr. Delicate Touch.
Dr. Delicate Touch feels nothing.
We know what we must do.
I'll ready the disposal unit.
Not that, too soon. But I like where your head's at.
Another thing that people didn't like about this show and are still bitching about to this day is the character designs. Each brother is based on a different species of turtle. Leonardo is a red-eared slider, Mikey is a box turtle, Donnie is a softshell, and Raph is an alligator snapping turtle. This explains why they all look so distinct and why Raphael is an absolute unit. But one of the biggest changes came with April O'Neil. Oh my god, she's black. This is woke garbage. You made it political.
Step to my friends for stepping to you. For stepping to me? You gonna have to...
She did not deserve that. This April is a queen and easily my favorite iteration of the character. Only one that comes close is the 2003 April. She's loud and spunky, but never to the point where it's annoying. She's the same age as the previous April, but nowhere near as irritating or uncomfortable. She proves herself to be capable of fighting with the boys on numerous occasions, and even battles alongside them against Shredder with the help of Karai, who is actually their grandmother in this version. How about that? But she's not the only one with a different personality. I've already said that all of the turtles are almost the same character and that they're all pretty much goofy goobers. Even Splinter is a lazy freeloader who can't even remember the names of his kids, but he does get better later on.
And I thought purple was the funny one.
Leonardo is no longer a stoic warrior obsessed with training. In fact, he's actually super lazy and unfocused half the time. It's like they changed everything about him to be the complete opposite, but kept the ego and turned that factor up to 11.
Because if I don't, you could all end up dead.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat everything from, well, everything?
Michelangelo, I deadass think is the least mentally challenged of all his brothers in this version. He still has his Mikey youngest brother moments from time to time, but he's actually pretty chill in the show, and I don't know why, but I love his voice.
Let's go bungee dunk on the hoops at Rucker Park.
But let's be real, nothing beats his 80s surfer voice. Oh, chaw, brah. Let's catch some gnarly waves, brah. Cowabunga, dudes! Rise Donatello might just be my favorite Donatello, because I'm convinced this man is an actual psychopath. He causes, like, the most problems out of any of the turtles because of his obsession with this tech, and that's what I love about him. He's so arrogant and cocky about his geniusness. He might actually be the funniest turtle just because of how confident he is in himself.
Okay.
What was that? I was too busy stewing over how everyone needs to be more like me.
And lastly, we have the biggest change, Rise Raphael. This Raph is nothing, and I mean nothing like his previous counterparts. Whereas in the past, Raphael was a hothead and always thought he'd be better off on his own, here that's not even slightly the case. This Raphael is sensitive, overprotective of his brothers, and the only time this man ever loses it or gets a rage boost in the show is when he's separated from his brothers because he just can't handle being alone. Now on paper, this sounds awful, but watching the show you really feel for Raph. He's actually the leader this time around, and I mean, it makes sense. He's the oldest and very much the biggest, but he's not an idiot.
You thought smashing everything but the mirror would get him out of the mirror?
For fuck's sake, he actually comes up with team building exercises. Raphael doing team exercises. Let that sink in. Even at the end of the show, when it's up to him to lead them to stop the Shredder, he actually cracks under the pressure, but then realizes all he needed was the trust of his brothers to gain their powers back. All's well and good, but then this happens.
Oh, and Blue, you are the leader now.
Wait, what?
Okay. This is actually a really good segue now that I think about it. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a great show, and I, as well as a ton of others, slept on it when it just wanted to be different. And looking back, I completely respect that. It doesn't hit the same drama-heavy or story beats of the other shows, but it makes up for it by being super funny, gorgeously animated, and having some damn fine character work and development. I think the show deserved better, and I'm glad to see people looking back and giving it a lot of love, even if it's uncertain where the series will go after the movie. And speaking of the movie, let's finally talk about it.
You are true heroes. It wouldn't surprise me if someday someone made a movie about you.
And just a fair warning, I'm spoiling this shit rotten. I'm not sorry, this is just what needs to be done.
But it isn't over. We've still got a ninja's greatest weapon. Hope. That and a badass mystic warrior.
Okay, I take back everything I said about this being like Teen Titans Go, which the more I've thought about it, I've come to realize that comparison needs to stop. It might have similar humor to that of Teen Titans Go, but that's all Teen Titans Go has is the jokes. And I'm not saying the show's awful, hell, I think it's way overhated, but Rise is simply not comparable at this point. The humor in that show can constantly get a laugh out of me, without being annoying, and it can get really serious when it needs to be, along with amazing action so that the show has variety and helps it stand out. Teen Titans Go does not have variety. Like I said, sometimes the comedy is okay, and then other times it devolves into exactly how most people today that aren't fat toddlers with carpal tunnel view the show.
Plop, plop goes the poop right down the toilet. I pooped in the toilet, I pooped boot in the toilet. Plop, plop goes the poop right down the toilet. I pooped in the toilet, I pooped boot in the toilet.
This movie deals with the introduction of this series' Krang as well as Casey Jones. Casey is from an apocalyptic future and is sent back to help the Turtles stop the Krang. Now, there is another character in the show named Cassandra who acted as another member of the Foot Clan until she switched sides and was revealed to be this series' Casey Jones. I'm not sure if this was the plan all along or they just got a ton of backlash for the change, Lord knows they're used to that. But in this movie it's finally confirmed that she is in fact Casey's mom. I really hope we get a season 3, not just because I want more Cassandra, she's honestly one of my favorite characters, but seeing them meet would be very interesting. And as for the Krang Jesus, these motherfuckers do not play around. They have one goal: rip, tear, and conquer. And I'm honestly not surprised because Rise already has a great cast of creative and original villains. I also love the fact that it connects back to Shredder. Shredder in this series is still a human, he's still a Rokusaki, but the Krang gave him that armor and made him the force he eventually became. And now the Krang themselves are back with not only the Technodrome, but their own mech suits. That brings me right back to the 2003 show where, spoilers, I guess, Shredder himself is a Krang or an Utrom named Karel. But getting back on track, Casey and the Turtles are looking for the key to stop Dan Schneider's fan club from opening the door, but in a shocking turn of events, they are unsuccessful and need to keep finding ways in order to send them back and save the day. But at the heart of this film lies the Turtles themselves. It follows up what happened at the end of Season 2, with Leo becoming the leader, and it turns out he's fucking abominable at leading the team, which makes Raph understandably frustrated, and because of Leo, ends up getting bent over backwards and kidnapped by the Krang. Leonardo has always been my least favorite turtle on the surface level. You still root for him, but he's definitely the most boring out of the four, and this is where Rise Leo stands out from the rest, because they're able to give him a satisfying arc by making him not necessarily an asshole, but very arrogant and narcissistic. Not as arrogant as Donatello, but clearly unable to take shit seriously. Raph is the oldest brother, and even though he's not the leader anymore, he's still the responsible one, and this movie is all about Leo learning to grow up and work as a team. In the show, Leo never even thought of wanting to be the leader, and the whole leadership thing in the movie is hardly even mentioned, and I think I know why. It's not about who's giving orders, it's about Leo accepting his place on the team and learning to accept responsibility for his actions. Before that, he was just a chill guy with fun one-liners, but this time around, not only does this end up getting him in trouble, but even makes people like Casey and Raph turn on him at certain points. The conflict is honestly handled beautifully. The team is constantly on edge, especially since they now can't use their mystic powers. Aw shit, I didn't talk about the mystic powers. Okay, Mystic Education speedrun. So at the start of Season 1, the Turtles' classic weapons are either broken or replaced with new weapons that have these mystical properties. Raph can create these phantom shields, gauntlets, and make himself even bigger. Mikey gets a whip that can set itself on fire, stretch farther than a CVS barcode, and lets him throw things several times his size. Leonardo can make portals and teleport, and Donnie doesn't use a mystic weapon at first, opting for his tech, but later unlocks it from within, which gives him their classic weapons back and lets Donnie combine both science and magic, basically granting him lantern powers. You caught up? Alright, well they're gone now and you have to deal with it. This was a smart way to keep the Turtles on their toes, and once they do get them back, it's some of the coolest, rawest, and most cream-inducing animation you will ever see by a Western studio. This is literally Ninja Turtles the anime, and I could not be happier. The fight scenes and animation in general with this series cannot be appreciated enough. This is a prime example why I love 2D animation. I love the 2012 show, but you just cannot do stuff like this in 3D, and believe it or not, this film is also surprisingly mature. It deals with possible outcomes of death, world-ending stakes, and even uses blood sparingly to really make the serious moments stick with you. Either that or it's heavily implied. My heart stopped for an unrealistic amount of time. I love that they were able to partner with Netflix to give this show one more chance, but Jesus fuck, I would have spread my asshole over an active stove for them to release this in theaters. Are you really gonna look me in the eyes with a straight face and tell me the Bob's Burgers movie was big screen worthy, but this isn't? You can fuck right off. I was not a day one fan of this show. I fully admit it. I'm putting my meat on the table and telling this show I'm sorry. I was wrong and this movie is peak. I'm happy to see this trending, but that's not enough. I want people rioting in the streets to bring this show back. And give this series the love it deserves, so that maybe, one day, we'll get a season 3 or maybe more. We, and yes, we, honest to God, did this show so dirty. It barely even got a season 2. A lot of stuff had to be either cut or shortened because they were only allowed 16 more episodes. And even with all of that working against them, it's still a good season. It's not perfect, but it didn't feel like it cut any major corners. And once again, the animation never dropped and only got better. Don't make the mistake I did. Don't always judge a book by its cover. And please, for fuck's sake, give it a chance. You will be rewarded for your time. I know Seth Rogen must be shitting himself, and I will be keeping my expectations low for that movie, but come on, it's Ninja Turtles. I love Rise of the TMNT and the movie very much. Voice acting gets a 10 out of 10, story gets an 8 out of 10, it's good but pretty derivative, animation gets 9 billion pipe wrenches out of 7 doorknobs. Thanks for watching.
At times,
As I recline way back in both stacks with relations to rap my conversations about the devils we be lacing in the revolution. Be enormous how I'm pooping. My mind has been in battle since birth. That's why I'm puffing nails and juicing. Like a man in arms regrouping, planning my attack on the sounds of water twins.